to Budapest is all set out, makes it very interesting. One side looking a little bit tougher, although this is the Champions League.
Absolutely. Arsenal have got the dream draw, haven't they? You know, it's almost easier for them to win the Champions League than it is to win the Premier League with this draw today. And I sound quite disappointed, don't I, over the fact that they got pulled out. But no, I'd have to listen. Man City have got it as tough as it comes, because you know they play against Real Madrid, and we know I did the Real Madrid game the other day, and it wasn't fantastic. But it's going to be a different Real Madrid, like Bellingham, Mbappe coming back in, Rodrigo back into that team. They'll be completely different. And they get excited when they get into the latter stages, so it's never going to be easy for Man City. And then if they get through, you would have to think that Bayern Munich will beat Atalanta. And Bayern Munich look very strong this year. So if you're going to have to win it, you're going to do it the hard way, certainly on that side of the draw, whereas I think Arsenal have got it nice and cosy.
Not a word on Spurs?
Spurs, yeah, Spurs. I mean, Atletico. I mean, I'm more concentrated on Spurs staying in the Premier League. Thank you very much. So, I think let's not get carried away. We can enjoy that. If they win a couple of games now, beat Fulham at the weekend, and then Crystal Palace next week, then perhaps they can start looking forward to the last 16 of the Champions League. It's a decent enough draw. Nothing to be scared of. Atletico Madrid. And they're capable. They need some bodies back, though. They need some players fit, but they need points in the Premier League. That is where I am with it at the moment.
Yeah, well, you said for Arsenal looking slightly easier to win the Champions League than the Premier League. Let's look at the Premier League and their challenge this week, because they face Chelsea and it's a standout London derby with plenty of edge. And for both clubs, the stakes are at a premium. Arsenal have eyes on the title, while Chelsea are in the battle for Champions League qualification.
Mikel Arteta in charge of Arsenal at home for the first time. Leno hasn't gone there, and Jorginho has. Abraham, 2-1 Chelsea. They've turned it round. A heartache for Mikel Arteta in his first home game as the head coach of Arsenal.
Sneaked in at the near post, and the Gunners drag it back again.
Oh, how Arsenal needed that. The Gunners record their first double over Chelsea for 17 years.
Lovely first touch, fantastic finish. What a magnificent performance by Mikel Arteta's young Gunners tonight.
Arsenal are back in their groove. There is Trossard, and Arsenal have come from two behind.
A performance of purpose, a display of character. Arsenal with a big win.
He smuggles it through. Flicked on by Marino and flicked in. It's often been Arsenal full of confidence, Chelsea troubled by self-doubt.
Which Chelsea will turn up here?
You've consistently been asked about Victor Gyökeres and his form throughout this season and since he signed at Arsenal, and you've backed him, you've never doubted him. Has he had any kind of self-doubt?
I don't know, that's a question for him. Obviously I know the demands that he put on himself, the expectations that he has to help the team, and I'm confident because I ask a lot of times our defenders when they have to train against our players, how do you feel when it's a nightmare? And that's a really good way to understand the quality of a player or how it is to defend him.
I don't judge one game as harder than the other. What happens against the higher teams in the league is they're more open because they want to attack more. There's different tactical things that you can work on. For me, I'm very happy with this group. I'm happy with the start that we've made. We've won 8 out of 12. It should be 10 out of 12. That's not bad.
Mikel Arteta talking about Victor Gyökeres, his confidence. Yeah. You were at the North London derby. Was that his best match in an Arsenal jersey?
Yeah, without doubt. 2 goals against Tottenham Hotspur in a big derby. No matter how Tottenham are struggling at the moment, I thought his finishes were fantastic. It took him really, really well. Could have obviously defended a little bit better against him, but I think he's that confidence what he will be getting there. that is typical of him, that goal there. And this one, really. You know, he's nothing silky about him, you know, but he's effective. He puts the ball in the back of the net. That's what he does. This is a little bit more silky, the touch and swivel and hit behind Vicario before he even sees it. And there's strength here, you know, get off and just steers it into the corner. He's got a lot to offer. I think people are, I mean, it's 10 now, 10 Premier League goals now. You know, if he can get 15 15 goals, I'm outraged. Even if he don't score again, he contributes to them lifting the title at the end of the season. It would have been a good signing, and he will only get better. Let's not forget, he's at Coventry before, he's been in Brighton, so he's been in the country, but he's never played in the Premier League. He's getting used to it. It takes time, and he gets time to get used to your players as well in your team. And obviously, Mikel said he watches them train against the quality of defenders, what they have every single day, and he's a nightmare. So if he's a nightmare against them, he's capable of playing against any team and scoring goals. I feel sorry for him sometimes. I think he wants the ball in certainly he wants it a little bit quicker. He's not getting it quicker at the moment. So there was a couple of times at the weekend when I watched him close, and he was, fighting Dragusin all over the place. Happy to do that. Not all strikers are happy to have that wrestle all of the time, but he's capable of doing it. I think he can still develop, I think he's still a young man, and Mikel can teach him.
Yeah, 14 goals in all competitions this season for Victor Gyökeres. In 2026, no Premier League player has scored more goals than him in all competitions, and yet opinion is still very divided. What's your opinion?
Well, I think the goal tally and how he's performed, certainly in the more recent weeks and months, you can see that improvement and you can see the quality that he has. And sometimes, actually, that reputation of fans or opposing fans being on your back, sometimes that helps you a little bit, because I think he looks like he's the sort of player that if someone's got, challenges him like that, he sort of thinks, yeah, fine, I'll show you. And I think for Arsenal to have someone that can contribute 10+ goals in a season is huge, because they also get goals from other areas. And they've got other players that contribute. I think Trossard's had a very good season. Right, Odegaard's had injuries, but when he plays, very effective, dangerous, chances. They've had goals from across the board. So to also have a number 9 who's now picking up in form at this point in time, that's huge.
Yeah, the result itself was pretty huge for Arsenal, especially given what Manchester City had done 24 hours earlier against Newcastle. Cut that gap to just 2 points. It's very, very heated right now. And this response was the perfect response, really.
It was, yeah. And Eze's back. Look, well, where's he been? I mean, he's just only turns up for the North London derbies. He's got an incredible... Kolo Muani scores, and you think, at half-time, you think, you know what, you could take this deep into the game. And they could get really edgy and the anxiety could breed. And 2.5 minutes into the second half, that happens. That calms them down. And then Eze pops up again. I mean, he'll give him a huge amount of confidence. I thought he would grow after the first hat-trick in the reverse fixture. And he hasn't been performing that well. And the manager's left him out. He made a defensive mistake against Aston Villa. And there's that wonderful finish from Gyökeres as well. So confidence is flooding through the group now. They've got Jesus, who's fit. Havertz is not far away again. So they're looking very strong, aren't they?
Do you start Eze instead of Odegaard? Do you find that Eze's
I don't
connection?
Think 100% Eze would not start that game unless he had scored a hat-trick in the reverse fixture. Now, different kettle of fish. Confidence coming back, whether he starts him against Chelsea. Odegaard come on and was outstanding in the game. Comes on with the attitude you want from a leader. Like, he was triggering the press, he was getting the ball, he was passing it quick. Listen, it's a great... If you're Mikel Arteta, it's a fantastic problem to have. They've got so much quality. Madueke's been playing really well. He sat on the bench. But I think it was because it was Tottenham and he'd scored the hat-tricks previously. Sometimes... it's good if you can get a habit of scoring against your North London derby rivals. I mean, incredible. Now, he don't have to do anything all season now. He just put his feet up there, but he will get lauded by them Arsenal fans. That's how big I scored in that game. And I wasn't playing very well before, and I wasn't playing very well after, but it didn't really matter because I was a hero that scored a winner in that fixture.
And you have 5 goals in the 2 North London derbies. Is that his transfer fee paid?
Goes a long way, doesn't it? I'm sure he's not finished there. He'll want to play for England and he's got a big say. Yeah. He's an excellent player. He really is. Yeah,
big couple of months ahead of them. That game, no doubt, so important given what Manchester City had done before them. But, I think it's going to be like that for the next couple of weeks coming now. City are going to play first, then Arsenal. And let's look at their next games coming up because there are some tough fixtures in there. There always are in the Premier League. But Chelsea is the last one, I think, in the top kind of half of the table, in the top Champions League chasing places, until they play Man City themselves in the cup final?
Yeah, and I think just what's important to point out is the number of games that Arsenal are going to have to play. You know, that's literally essentially just the 3 weeks of March. Just more than that. And that's a lot of games. And those Champions League games, yeah, you know, Tim's saying, they've got a favourable draw. They were harder teams to get. It's also difficult games. You know, they're not easy. There's a bit of extra travel involved. Again, people are saying comfortable draw in the FA Cup, and yes, it is, but it's away from home. That won't be. It's another travel, playing on a pitch that won't be what they're used to, and all these little extra things. It's just a lot of games. You've got to recover. Different players will have to contribute, and there will be a number of players that are going to have to stand up in both boxes and do their job. So that, for me, will be the test for Arsenal in these 3 weeks. It's a huge volume of games.
Yeah, I always think it's harder for London teams to win the Premier League because there's so many derbies, and that's what comes next. They took care of Tottenham, and that could have gone either way, especially on the back of a poor result against Wolves, giving them a 2-goal lead, and then they come back and they draw. But we saw they're capable, Wolves, and they've got some fight in them now, and they took it to Arsenal. But Chelsea have got more threats than Tottenham. So this is going to be a huge game of football.
They've already played each other, once in the league and then twice in the League Cup, which Arsenal had to get past Chelsea to set up that final with Manchester City at the end of the month. Does that affect anything? Do you know each other better then? Are the games closer, or does it not?
Possibly. You have a look at each other, yeah. Who knows what team he's going to pick? We're trying to second-guess Mikel, and he could do the same, you know, with Chelsea's lineup. You know, they've got a lot of options, especially in forward areas, both sides. So it's very difficult to really know how they're going to go about the game. So it's just an opportunity. The Chelsea fans do not like Arsenal. They don't like Tottenham. They don't like anyone, actually, especially if they're anyone from London. And Chelsea have won the Premier League a few times, and the last thing they want is for Arsenal to win the Premier League. They would much rather it be Man City and much rather it be Liverpool. But if Arsenal were to win it, they wouldn't like that very much. So there's an opportunity to spoil the party, and that comes this weekend.
Yeah, so the big takeaway there is Chelsea don't like anybody. And
no.
We'll leave it at that.
And no one likes them.
They are chasing Champions League themselves, though, and that race is pretty heated. You know, they would have seen what happened with the Villa result. They will know that Liverpool have an opportunity to open a little bit of a gap. Manchester United also in the chase. Chelsea need the result.
They do. They've got their own motivation. I'm intrigued for this one because, obviously, the two legs in the League Cup, there was quite a bit of criticism on how there was a feeling they went out with a whimper.
Yeah.
And I think when that's your rivals, that adds an extra edge. There's an element of pride there. And so I think it'll be interesting, you know, in terms of how they set up and structure, that may look somewhat similar. But I think in terms of the intensity of how they compete in certain areas and, you know, tackles in the first 5-10 minutes, I think that's going to be big for Chelsea this weekend because there's an expectation that there will be a response, I think, from the fans.
Yeah, and there must be a response to the Burnley game as well. They've lost drop points in their last two games, back-to-back draws, you know, after that wonderful start from Liam Rosenior. And once again for Chelsea, discipline being an issue, losing Fofana and then going on to concede that equaliser. That's got to be a concern. Now, what do you put that down to?
I was at this game and, you know, the first 5-10 minutes, they were fantastic.
Yeah.
Honestly, you were thinking, before they scored, which they scored in the opening 5 minutes, you were thinking this could be five or six intensity. Fofana getting the red card, you know, we talked pre-game, again, he was on a yellow, that's a tackle you just can't make. Exposed them, and then Burnley got themselves back in the game. But, you know, they make so many defensive changes. Now they've got a couple of injuries there. Cucurella's still missing. Now another suspension, they're going to have to change again. I think that is disrupting them. And the result against Burnley was a poor one because you're at home playing a team that's second bottom of the league and you want to play Champions League football next season. You got to make sure you get the result, and they just took the foot off the gas. Again, there's now going to be an expectation. We need a response from that.
Yeah, if you look at Villa, Man United, Liverpool, Chelsea, if you compare them and where they are right now and their potential in the rest of the season, did Chelsea get Champions League for you? No,
I think they miss out. I think Villa will pick up. They've got a nice gap there. I think Man United are odds on for me. I think they're like a steam train at the moment, got some confidence running for them. And I think Liverpool will have enough. So I think Chelsea might just miss out. The worry I have with Chelsea Football Club is that they have to win pretty all the time. And when it is pretty, like Rachel said, it's excellent. but I'm not sure they've got the characters and the know-how within their side to dig results out. We've seen Arsenal do that. They find a way, whether it's from a set piece or whatever it takes. It's still the same amount of points at the end of it. Chelsea seem to have to play well to win games, and I'm not sure they're consistent enough with their performances.
Well, Chelsea go to the Emirates Stadium to take on the league leaders in the